This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jespersen.
All right, so here's the deal. Canadians have put enough pressure on the Prime Minister that he says he's changing his plan. He's not going to wait until next year to release a budget. Mark Carney is promising Canadians a budget this fall. I don't know if the public won. I don't know if opposition pressure registered, but it's a change of plans for Canada's new Prime Minister. Sharan Kaur is going to join us in just a moment to get into it. She served at a high level, Deputy Chief of Staff to a federal finance minister before. She understands it. She's been taking some punches online, we've noticed, for her commentary on budget-related matters, and she's been dishing out a few punches as well. That's just how we like our guests on Real Talk. Able to dish them out, able to take them. Johnny, what did Paul Biznasty Bissonnette say when the Irish travelers beat him up in that restaurant in Scottsdale, Arizona? Wasn't it like took a few, gave
you gotta
a few
take
more?
a few to get a few.
Yeah, take a few, give out a few more, something like that. So Sharan Kaur is going to be on today. Looking forward to that. We'll get her take on Canada's joint statement with the UK and France as well. Israel reportedly taken aback by Canada's threat of action over Israel's actions in Gaza in particular over the past number of days. The international community, there's been outcry to say the very least, not from the United States, and many experts say that's the only voice or perspective that Israel truly cares about. We'll see what Sharon thinks about that. Plus, we haven't talked a lot about the so-called Hockey Canada trial, which is happening as we speak, but that's something that we definitely want to get into. We'll be looking into the Real Talk live chat powered by Park Power for your takes on that as well. Now, as is the case with matters before the courts, perhaps some of our commentary will be limited until there's a verdict or otherwise in this scenario, but there have already been a few unusual developments here, and we wanted to get into that. So we're grateful that Sharon's here to join us. This episode, quite frankly, would not happen without the team at We Know Training, the presenting sponsors for this episode. In a world where credentials and compliance really matter, especially in regulated industries, that could be in tech, that could be healthcare, maybe that's somebody looking after a loved one of yours in a long-term care center, whatever it is, safety training. We Know Training is building something bigger than just training courses. They're creating the infrastructure of trust, and that means when somebody says that they're certified, like somebody operating a forklift or somebody working in a long-term care center, you can believe it. It's all backed by digital credentials that absolutely cannot be faked, and that's something that every industry needs right now. This will become more and more and more of a story over the months and years to come, and We Know Training has been on the leading edge of this since inception. You can learn more about how they're delivering training, not just the training, but proof that you or your employees have done the work and earned those credentials by checking out their website, wkt.ca. That's We Know Training at wkt.ca. Sharan Kaur is a seasoned communications and political expert with a ton of experience spanning politics, media, and crisis management. She served at a very high level for a federal minister of finance. She does a ton of national and international political commentary. You've likely seen her on outlets, including this one, through the most recent federal election, and she's now a partner at Sovereign Advisory. Always a welcomed guest on this show. Thank you for making time for us, and a good day to you, my friend.
Hello.
There's a ton going on right now, and I'm trying to decide, like, as they would say in a 6 o'clock newsroom, they would say, what's the lead tonight? And I don't know if the lead is Canada-Israel or the federal budget, but what do you make of Mark Carney signing this joint statement with Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer, UK, France, Canada, essentially saying to Israel, if you keep this up, there's going to be consequences. It's a bit of a change of pace from the tone that Prime Minister Trudeau took.
You know, this is such a hard conversation to have with anyone these days because it's become so polarized. I literally this morning last night had tweeted something out and immediately became called names, like getting called names, being told that I'm a Hamas supporter, being told I'm all these things. And so I want to approach this discussion with like the nuance. And I think that what Prime Minister Carney and our allies have put out there is a welcome statement for many people. The issue has become there are so many folks out there, and you see this online, who you you can't even have the conversation about aid getting into Gaza because people are going to say it's propaganda, it's fake, it's not true. And as somebody who has spent time in the region, somebody who has worked with a lot of people whose families come from the region in Palestine, it's a really this is a hard conversation to have because it's so sensitive. I think the statement, personally, I didn't see any issue with the statement. I know we've seen certain individuals come out and say, so now you're basically supporting Hamas because Hamas went out and put a statement saying they welcomed it, and that's never helpful. It's never helpful to have a terrorist organization say thanks to these democratic countries for putting out the statement, but. There is an issue of aid. There's an issue of aid getting into Gaza. And I think that we have to kind of separate Hamas from the people. And I think right now it's become too convoluted where you can't even sympathize with innocent people because people don't want to criticize people who are allies of Israel, don't want to publicly criticize Netanyahu. And I've talked to so many people in the Jewish community who want to criticize him, but feel like they can't because of the state of affairs right now. So it's just so messy.
No, it is. And I remember, like, from, the October 7th, 2023, people were saying that you got to be able to separate Hamas from Palestinians. You got to be able to separate the people and not just the women and the children, but the innocents, an estimated 55,000 plus that have died through this from this terrorist organization and from the heinous actions that most people, that everybody acknowledges were brutal and unacceptable and horrific on the 7th of October. An absolute mess. We had a viewer, Megan, send in a note to us that basically said, if Palestine has not broken and reshaped your soul, then grieve not for them, but for the death of your own heart. This has been a very difficult story to watch, regardless of where you stand on, I think, what Canada's relationship with Israel should look like. Everybody, I think, should be able to recognize and talk about the fact that this is, in that region, and this is saying something, an unprecedented humanitarian crisis.
100%. And I think the biggest issue is that people don't understand the region. People see Israel as the region and it is part of the region, but people don't understand Gaza. They don't understand the West Bank. They don't understand Arab politics either. And again, someone who was out there, you have to approach it with a different lens. And I think the biggest issue that I'm seeing here is that we have people who have hijacked the cause of the Palestinian cause of two-state solution or allowing them to come and go as they please. So people have separated the reality from the facts. And the Jewish community has faced a ton of anti-Semitism here in Canada because of these, I would say, these professional activists who don't actually know anything about what's happening in the region, who have hijacked the cause and are waving their flags. We saw this past weekend an ambulance couldn't get through a street in Toronto because there was a Palestinian protest that was taking place there. But if you ask an actual person from the region, someone who is from Gaza, someone who is from West Bank, they don't agree with a lot of these protesters. And we have to separate the real cause from these professional activists out here because they're leading to a ton of anti-Semitism, which has led to a bit of this. I had a Jewish friend of mine who's very active in the Jewish advocacy community, referred to it as bunker mentality, and said that because the history of what has happened to the Jewish community, they feel that it's all or nothing right now. And I think that is the hard thing to separate between what has happened historically to the Jewish community, the discrimination, the anti-Semitism, but still being able to acknowledge that what someone like Netanyahu is doing it's gone from retaliation to retribution. And we should be able to separate the two without being called anti-Semitic or without being called Hamas. And I get called that on a daily basis, and I am the biggest Jewish community allies. So I wish there was a place in which we could have a conversation about the Middle East in a sensible form, but it's definitely not on social media.
On our live chat powered by Park Power, Erica says, I'm not necessarily opposed to the war, but I'm vehemently opposed to restricting aid. She says that's just cruel. And I think that, you get to a situation now and I'm being called a Hamas supporter in our live chat right now, I guess, Sharon, by association for having you on, or, well, I don't know why. But I mean, you see the images from that region, you see what's happening right now. The numbers don't lie. The images don't lie. The sustained military offensive doesn't lie. And you get to a point where I think you recognize at some point world leaders are expected to say something. The question is, what do you say? What tone do you take? What do you threaten? What do you risk? Take us into your thoughts on this. I'll reference reporting by Stephanie Taylor here. It's in the National Post. National Post doing an interview with Israel's ambassador to Canada. And again, I referenced this earlier, the statement that Israel is taken aback, says the ambassador, says that that Canada has never... This has never happened in the past. This is why we were taken aback by this statement. And he says that's an understatement. The joint statement basically saying from Canada, the UK, and France that they strongly oppose the expansion of Israel's military operation in Gaza, calling it wholly disproportionate, warning Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that should Israel not stop its military action and restricting of humanitarian aid, they would take further concrete actions in response. I think most people believe that would be economic sanctions or something else. I don't think anybody is under the illusion that Canada or the UK would launch military strikes on Israel. I don't think that's what anybody thinks. But are you comfortable with what Mark Carney potentially risks here? Are you comfortable with the tone of the statement? I mean, he's speaking on behalf of Canada.
Yeah, like me personally, I am. And I understand that there are members of the Jewish community here who feel let down by it because, again, they have faced so much anti-Semitism here in Canada. But like a lot of my Jewish friends have said to me is that you have to be able to separate what is happening there to what is happening here. And we should be able to denounce and call out what is happening in the region without it meaning that we are not allies. And I think that the issue that a lot of people have is that anything that we're getting in terms of numbers of people that are dying and food that's not getting in, aid that's not getting in, because Hamas controls the region, basically they're saying it's not true. And you know what? The time will come when we'll get all the facts of how many people have died, just been displaced, but the images don't lie. I have a lot of former colleagues who have family members who live in Gaza who have been completely displaced, and I've seen footage. I've seen the messages. I've seen the number of people from their own families that have died, and these are not made up. These are not made up people, and I think that it's time that our G7 countries do say, listen, what happened on October 7th was horrendous. The hostages need to be returned. But what we can also say is what Netanyahu is doing is wrong. Like, two wrongs don't make a right. And I wish we got to a point where people could have a sensible conversation. And I thought the statement was required. I thought it was necessary. And I think it's time to lower the temperature on what's happening. And I think we need members of the Jewish advocacy groups to also understand that we have to stop labeling all Palestinians as Hamas. It is a blanket level of, I would say it's a combination of Islamophobia, racism, discrimination that we wouldn't want for our Jewish community. So we have to separate the two and start having proper dialogue versus this hateful back and forth.
We're talking to Sharan Kaur. If you're just joining us on the Real Talk live stream presented by California Closets, Johnny, can you put up that statement again? That was we were showing for our YouTube and streaming audience. Sharan, this is a statement from the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, dated the 19th of May, out of Ottawa. Says Noah Shack, who's interim president there, says the fact that Hamas is reportedly applauded, like you recognized, the statement issued by Canada, the UK, and France speaks volumes about its misguided premise. Says if Israel were to cease targeting Hamas, hostages would remain chained in tunnels, and Hamas would repeat the October 7th massacre as it has explicitly vowed. If Hamas were to release the hostages and cease targeting Israel, this war will come to an end. That's why thousands of Gazans are in the street today bravely protesting Hamas rule, says the statement from CIJA. Prime Minister Carney made it clear that Canada understands this when he affirmed that Hamas must lay down its weapons and have no future role in the governance of Gaza. Today's statement undermines that position, giving Hamas incentive to continue rejecting a negotiated agreement. You've seen the headlines just like I have, right? Hamas thanks Canada, Hamas applauds Canada, that sort of a thing. Is Canada going... I mean, it's apples and oranges, but is Canada going too easy on Hamas here?
No, it's one of those, this is one of those weird cases. Nobody ever wants an endorsement of a letter from a terrorist organization. It's just I can imagine the Prime Minister's office waking up the next morning saying, oh shit, that was not intended.
Exactly.
But at the same time, the dynamics of the region are so complicated. It's you have to kind of put that aside and say, yeah, we need Hamas to put its arms down. We need them to release the hostages. But again, collective punishment towards Palestinians is not okay. And if multiple governments put out a statement and the outcome of that is a statement saying, yeah, thanks, we kind of have to say, well, we don't need your endorsement of this. We just need you to stop what you're doing. And something that I try to remind folks of all the time is specifically when you're dealing with organizations, terrorist organizations like Hamas or like the Houthis, you can kill as many as terrorists as you want. You'll never kill the ideology behind it. And all it does is kind of creates the next generation of that ideology. So you have to be able to do two things at once. And like that was not it's not ideal to have Hamas come out there, but at the end of the day, someone has to be the voice for the innocent Palestinians. And if it means that you get a thank you, you kind of have to just say that was unintended.
Melissa in our live chat says Israel needs to be held accountable. We can't allow Israel to kill children without any accountability. Matthew says, do you think, though, that we can recognize Palestine as a state if Hamas has power? Says, I'm very uncomfortable with that if that's the case. That's a fair question, isn't it?
And everyone should feel that way. Like, I don't think anyone wants to recognize it, but you have to remember leadership of a country sometimes does not represent the people, specifically in an area like Gaza that has not had the ability to form like any other Middle Eastern country because of the ruling of what's happened there over the last several years. So it's so complex. And I know people want to use Western lenses when they look at regions like the Middle East, but it was really eye-opening for me, at least, to live in the region, to kind of see how things are done there versus here, and how you end up with organizations like Hamas in charge. And it's not okay. It's not good. They're bad. Everyone should denounce them. But again, collective punishment is not the answer. And I think people have to be uncomfortable by calling Netanyahu out and saying what is wrong without feeling as if they're being labeled as anti-Semites or against the Jewish community. It is not the case. People can do two things and believe in two things. I just believe in humanity, and I would just really hope that we get to a point where I would wish there was a proper two-state solution, but I feel like we've moved further away from that with what's happened post-October 7th.
I agree with you. Different Matthew in our chat says, referencing the barbs that you've been enduring, and like I said, the punches you've been taking, while recognizing you've been dishing out a few as well, Sharon. You've not just been sitting there taking punches, and I'm proud of you. I want to get into that. But Matthew says this division that we see is absolutely killing Western democracy. He says we need to be able to have debates and disagreements without labeling or judging people outright. He says with reason. He says I'm not talking about people on the extremes, but how do you kind of approach that? I mean, it seems to me you and I have it felt like a fast friendship, but I've not known you for like 30 years. But I have noticed that you take your fair share of abuse because you've got hot takes. And it seems to me like you've kind of hit a bit of a limit. Like you're starting to amplify the hate in a sense of clapping back. You're kind of, it seems to me like you're fighting the fight on behalf of a lot of people that are in similar situations. Has there been a bit of an evolution of thought with you?
Listen, I'm a scrappy person when it comes to things like this, just because growing up like without this becoming a therapist chair in terms of why I am the way I am.
Sure.
I've always been that person who doesn't shut up. And there's so many wonderfully smart and thoughtful people in my life. I managed the campaign for Evan Solomon, and he tells me every single day, Sharon, you got to stop. You got to stop because you're better than this. But I would tell people that social media didn't matter for the longest time. But what I've seen happen on social media in the last, say, couple years has been infuriating, that there's this level of misinformation, disinformation, and people tend to believe it. And I've just came to the point where it's like, no, this is not true. And I should probably not engage with some of the trolls that do come at me and say things like, I put out a tweet about anything, I'm immediately told, if it's about the Middle East, it's you're a Hamas supporter, you're a Nazi. Like this is not a tan, is what I like to remind people. I've dealt with racism my whole life, but I just punch back because I just think that people, like, I'm my like informal enforcer, and it has turned the heat up, and it could be any topic, and it just, I don't know about you, but sometimes I just feel like someone needs to say it as it is, and I tend to do that. It could be about the budget, for example. I got into multiple heated conversations this past weekend on social by a bunch of super right-leaning, anti-Carney keyboard warriors who I had one guy who basically told me, well, you know what? You went to TMU, which used to be Ryerson. That's not even one of the top 10 schools. Who are you to ever work in the Department of Finance? And stuff like that just churns my butter because we all have lived experiences. We all have things that we've done. And maybe my educational background is not what led me to the jobs I've had, but it doesn't change my experiences. So I'm scrappy, and I'm also someone who will defend my army of people that I support and my friends. And half of the times, half of the fights I pick online are because people are being mean to people that I care and love. And you know what? I'm the Batman of Twitter.
The Batman of Twitter. Wow, you gotta adjust your Twitter bio, I would say. Hey, to shout out, I mean, I know we're going to talk about the budget here, and interested for your take, obviously, on this. Mark Carney wasn't going to table one until next year, and then he's kind of changed course on that, which can be a good thing for a leader, by the way, to respond to pressure and change course. But I saw here, this was kind of a nice one for you. I'll reference a tweet of yours, this on X. You can follow Sharon, by the way, at Ms. Sharan Kaur. We'll link to it in the show notes on the podcast and on YouTube. But you're talking about budgets. They're not built by bureaucrats. You kind of get into how ministers and the prime minister set the direction. And then people start coming at you. And then out of nowhere, a former Stephen Harper advisor, Demetrius Soudis, jumps in and says, sorry to jump in. He apologized in true Canadian fashion. He's sorry to jump in. He says, it's none of my business. And then he says, but Sharon's right on this one. And he reminisces about his time with the late Jim Flaherty and Stephen Harper. That's got to feel good when somebody jumps across the aisle to leap to your, not to your defense, but to reiterate what you're saying.
Yeah, it's the funny thing is, out of like, as someone who was a Liberal staffer for a long time, and I'm still very much involved in the apparatus and the orbit of the party, my approach has always been very bipartisan. Like, I'm not a hyper partisan. All of my bestest friends in the world are like conservative staffers or NDP staffers. So you'll often see that I tend to have people who will come to my defense who are from across the row. But it's funny because I put that tweet out there because I did five federal budgets. I've done 5 federal budgets. I've done 4 municipal City of Toronto budgets. I get the process, and I know people think that it's pretty black and white. You just crunch the numbers and you put it out there. But a federal budget is a beast. It is a Herculean effort to put together. And a week after a cabinet is sworn in, the outrage that everyone suddenly had with no budget coming this spring, to me, was kind of silly because a budget process, if we get into the logistics of it, starts in the fall. You start doing your consultations, you do your roundtables, and then you start doing your mandates with all the ministries and the Prime Minister's office. It doesn't get put together overnight. And that individual who whose tweet you posted, who I responded to, has been this like a rabid conservative partisan in Toronto who basically is just extremely angry that Pierre Poilievre didn't win. And I get it. Be mad, do whatever. But the idea that a budget can be put together overnight is just wrong. It's not true. It's not wrong. The finance minister said a fall economic update would be put in the fall, which is essentially can be a mini budget. But then we did hear the prime minister say, you know what, we'll do a budget. Technically, budgets are done at the beginning of the year to forecast everything. So my guess is this will be similar to a fiscal update, but maybe with a bit more of a backbone in it. But the outrage was a bit crazy in my perspective. He's a new prime minister. I understand that there hasn't been a budget since last year, and Chrystia Freeland was supposed to table the fall economic statement, but then blew everything up. So like, I get the sentiment, but good God, the lack of understanding of how a budget is done. The bureaucrats do not write it. They are very deeply involved in it, but the direction comes from the ministers, the prime ministers, and they go back and forth. There are decisions that go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There's binders and binders and binders. So the idea that it could be done overnight, to me, was just a bit silly. And Dimitri came in and kind of reiterated what I said. And it's funny because you see the responses he gets are not as vicious and like completely crazy as the ones that I get.
Giants for Life in our live chat powered by Park Power says the same people that are pissed off about no budget are giving the Orange Cheeto a pass on accepting a $400 million airplane. Maybe a fair comment, maybe not. Hey, can we acknowledge, though? I mean, I've seen some critics saying, well, listen, the Liberals released a fully costed platform. They made serious commitments on financial fronts. They have the numbers there. They should be able to put a budget together. Would you acknowledge that there are some concessions that are made with rolling with a fall economic statement or with an economic update?
Yeah, for sure. And like the argument that there's a costed platform, yeah, great. But a costed platform is really different than a budget. Like you still have to put all those moving pieces into it together. So my perspective is rather than rushing a budget and doing it right away, let's take the time to do it. You've got the summer to have all these conversations. Let's do it properly. And you know what? 5 months from now is not like, it's not that long. And I think it is giving people what they need. And like, you're always going to have people who said you should have done it yesterday, but yeah, sure. Let's take the summer to get the COSIP platform, all the key pieces that we want into the budget and see where they come. They also have to do some consolidating with like current spend and what's going on out there. So, Mr. Carney, the Prime Minister, is somebody who is very, I would say, he gets the books. He sees the books, he gets the books, and understands the difference, how everything is going to work out. Let's give the guy a chance. It hasn't even been a month, and everyone's up in arms around a budget. But you know what? He said we're going to get one, so we're going to get one.
Cliff in our chat says, hey, listen, very fair points from Sharon. However, no one's forcing the House to shutter for the summer months. I saw you tense up when you heard the however. You were ready for the flip. You were ready for it. But Cliff, he's making a fair point, and I think he's speaking on behalf of a bunch of people. He says you don't need to shut down for the entire summer. Says it really hasn't been functioning properly in like over a year, and it's time for our MPs to get back to work. I know he's not alone in feeling that way.
And I get that argument. I get the argument about having the House sit. My rebuttal to that is fair, but the House of Commons, honestly, in my opinion, is more about theatrics than it is about getting anything done. It's about giving the opposition opportunities to have the sound bites that they need. You're not going to have the budget done in the House of Commons. The budget gets done outside of the House of Commons. It gets done amongst departments. So you don't need a House to sit to have it done. And I think that's the confusion that people have been having, is that, well, why, like, let's keep the House sitting. Sure, you can keep the House sitting. It's not going to change the timeline necessarily. And you're just basically going to be running into theatrics of people yelling at each other. I wish our House of Commons was far more functional than it actually is, but it truly isn't. Maybe that'll change with Prime Minister Carney, to be determined. We will see on Monday when the House comes back. But sure, you can have the House sit through the summer. I just don't think it's going to lead to anything beyond some sound bites in the news.
Sharon, can we keep you for 10 more minutes?
Of course.
Okay, we're talking to Sharan Kaur, a longtime political staffer, political commentator, and of course, a comms professional, crisis management professional as well with Sovereign Advisory. I want to talk about the Hockey Canada trial, and I want to ask if it's on Sharon's radar and if anybody outside Alberta is talking about the sovereignty movement that's happening here, because as you know, Real Talkers, this audience, it's getting a lot of play in the western provinces, on the prairies in particular, but is it resonating? Isn't the whole idea of this from a political strategy standpoint to get Ottawa's attention? That ultimatum letter that was written by Danielle Smith to Mark Carney, this, and this, or else. Is it making news in the East? Is it resonating? Does Sharon think in the PMO? We'll get there in just a quick second. First, I want to make sure that North Road Investment Council is on your radar. If questions are keeping you up at night around your own family's financial security, if you're starting to wonder if you have enough for retirement, especially if the universe blesses you with good health into your 90s. Do you have enough to make it through with rising costs? Can your portfolio withstand inflation and dynamics in the stock market? The team at North Road Investment Council, led by Marshall and Carrie, have the answers to these questions. Or if you're in that position where you're not even sure the questions you should be asking, they've got you covered there as well. They've got certified financial planners and chartered financial analysts that can answer your biggest retirement and financial planning questions, and you're going to pay them a per-hour fee, not through commissions that are paid by selling you investment products. No fluff, no pressure, just clear advice and strategies that make sense. You can learn more by visiting their website. That's northroadic.com. kubi.com. Hey, are you following Solar by Kubi on Instagram yet? You can find them at Kubi Energy, and I wanted to show you their most recent post. Johnny, you know we love our drone images. Look at this beautiful installation. This is the Legacy at Griesbach, an installation enabling a multi-family community to make meaningful progress toward a cleaner future, delivering reliable, sustainable energy for years to come. The linear installation, I mean, if you're into like Tetris, I don't know, sorry to nerd out here, but I just absolutely love videos like this. Nobody does a cleaner job than the team at Kubi. You can find them online at kubi.ca. That's kuby.ca. Make sure you click on the solar link and check out the careers they've got if you're looking to make a change in your own professional life. And of course, you can also get a free solar quote anytime. That's kubi.ca. And our friends at California Closets of Canada want to remind you that the consultation with their team of designers is always free. You've got nothing to lose. Visiting one of their beautiful showrooms, sitting down, painting a picture of your vision, letting them know what you have in mind, whether it's a home office that turns into a guest room with one of those amazing Murphy beds. Maybe it's the laundry room that folds away perfectly so it's not an eyesore. You don't have to scramble to close the door if you have guests drop by unexpectedly. Whatever it is, California Closets can dream it, design it, and build it like nobody else. And it's all manufactured right here in Canada. How great is that? Everything that they install comes with a lifetime guarantee. If you think you can't afford California Closets, I bet you're wrong. Learn more today and request that free consultation by checking out californiaclosets.ca. Sharan Kaur, our guest, as this Hockey Canada trial continues. The most recent news involving the trial of Alex Formanton, Cal Foote, Michael McLeod, Dylan Dubé, and Carter Hart, members of former members of Canada's World Junior team, is that the sex assault trial will not consider statements made in 2022 to a Hockey Canada investigator. It's just the latest story in a trial that has contained some curves along the way, some unexpected developments, repeated jury dismissals, the transition recently to a judge-alone trial, delayed proceedings, renewed charges, allegations that members of the defense, the legal team that is, behaving in a degrading or intimidating fashion toward the plaintiff. Sharan, I know that you've offered some public commentary on this. How are you wrapping your mind around what you're seeing, and what are some of the storylines that you're keeping an eye on here?
It's been such a painful case to watch. I would say we saw the first jury get dismissed and the second jury get dismissed. We've seen the text messages. I would say what my biggest takeaway from this has, and we were talking about social media earlier, was kind of seeing what the public sentiment around the case has been. And man, it has been really painful to watch. If you've been following some of the commentary that people have been making about, they call her, I think it's EM is what they refer to her as.
Yeah, that's right.
In the trial, kind of just saying things like she asked for it. This is like it's consensual, and kind of just all this stuff, putting the blame on her, saying that she's ruining the careers of some talented hockey players. It's been painful to watch because it's kind of an indication of how women, specifically in sexual assault, rape, anything to do with this type of legal case, are identified, and it's been challenging to watch. So now to hear that it's going to be handled by a judge, I'm hoping that there's fair justice that is given to the victims. But it's been challenging to watch. I don't know if you've gone down the deep hole of what people have been saying about EM, but I personally have found it to be a little scary to see how being a victim of something, it's kind of all or nothing. If a woman shows an ounce of interest, anything that goes beyond appropriate or consensual in her mind, in this case, people are saying she asked for it. And I find that to be painful, like painfully horrible to watch.
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation with, actually a very meaningful conversation with a friend yesterday. He's not a parent, I am, and we were just talking about what this trial is doing, I think, or at least what I kind of hope it does in a sense, which is like to prompt conversation around like family dinner tables and among friends and in locker rooms and everything else on what consent looks like, and the idea around it. And I do know that there are a lot of people, I think, that are probably watching this. The testimony, it's somewhat remarkable. Like, it almost feels uncomfortable when like the text messages are dragged into the public sphere and I'm seeing them on my Instagram feed from hockey accounts. It's just like, you know what I mean? It's just kind of an unusual type scenario, and a lot of it's difficult to read. And you imagine, EM in that circumstance, and like obviously her testimony present day on how she was feeling at that time, how she felt after the fact, the text messages that were exchanged between her and a girlfriend, right? Talking about how upset she was the next day about what had happened, and kind of this Jekyll and Hyde type persona that she found in Michael McLeod, kind of the orchestrator of all this. And then you also hear on the flip side, witness testimony from some that are saying, she said, this to X player of like, come on here and do this to me, or I want this, or I'm enjoying this, or I like this. And it does get complicated. Quite frankly, it makes me nervous to talk about it in front of a microphone because you want to respect the position that EM is in. I can't imagine having your a crime perpetrated against you debated and discussed with millions of people. I think that would just be, to call it unenviable is an insufficient word. But I do think, and I hope that it's prompting more people to have these conversations and to better understand, to seek to understand what consent means, what it looks like, how it can be withdrawn, and the implications after the fact.
Yeah. And and this is not just for women, it could be for men as well. The issue of consent, and like you, it's been really uncomfortable to read some of these text messages because for a lot of us women, who have been in, say, similar situations where you can say show like an ounce of interest in somebody, and then it goes from what makes you comfortable to what makes you extremely uncomfortable. You're always kind of wondering at the back of your head, did I do something to put myself in this position? And that is not an okay, I would say that we're inherently kind of built to think that, and I don't think it's okay. So it's really hard to see all of these messages coming out there. But I do hope that there's a conversation, even in sports. Sports can be a pretty, I would say, there's just like bro-y type of behavior where you kind of get carried away with things, and you're seeing some of that in what they're describing that happened to EM. And I hope parents have these conversations with their kids to make sure that consent is consent is consent. You can be comfortable at one moment and not at the other, and that doesn't mean that it's still okay. Like, that is where we need to make sure that people are educated to say you're not forced to do anything. You don't need to be in a situation that doesn't make you comfortable, but it's painful. Like, I'm sure this is bringing up a lot of wounds for sexual assault victims. We've all been in situations where we've been taken advantage of, or it becomes extremely inappropriate or uncomfortable. And this is just a really hard case to watch. And I hope that EM is being supported in every way, shape, or form, because having your life blasted on social media and in the newspapers in such a vile way, and have people come out to say, well, she deserved it or she asked for it, that is not an easy thing to recover from.
Yeah, no kidding. Melissa says, I feel really bad for her. It's an example why women, like you said, Sharon, why women don't want to come forward in these types of cases. M. Aitken says the case is disgusting. It's why women don't go down this path. Kathy wonders, why are the potential futures of men more important than the potential future of their victims, which is a very fair question, obviously. Cassandra says nobody has to be sexually assaulted. No means no matter when it's said. Alberta Girl says it's disgusting that gang rape is considered consensual because these entitled hockey players did it. Vamp Fashions says the justice system, justice in quotes, has coddled these jerks and done absolutely everything to make EM go away. They've treated her like garbage. White Dream says, hold these players to account. We also need to hold people like Stan Bowman to account, talking about the current general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, for the ongoing legal proceedings happening in Chicago. Yeah, interesting. Interesting to see Joel Quenneville get a job in the league again. He was the Blackhawks coach during that Kyle Beach situation that people can Google back from 2010. Kathy goes on to say the fact that EM was being cross-examined or on the stand at least for 8 days was wild. She says, I was so impressed by her strength. It had to be so hard. You can't imagine, and I echo your sentiment about support. I think we underestimate. I mean, unless you've walked a mile in those shoes, it's impossible to try to imagine the emotional toll that something like this would take on somebody. Not just like sort of being, they talk about being re-traumatized when you're on the stand. But it's hard to imagine, at least in Canada, a higher profile sexual assault. Maybe I don't know, Jean Gomeshi, I don't know. But like this is about as high profile as it gets.
Yeah, and it's I think people will be shocked, or maybe not. I'm not shocked by it, but ask a lot of your, even men, ask your female friends, but ask your male friends how many women have been in situations that are extremely similar. They might not be as high profile because this is extremely high profile, but you'd be surprised to know how many women have gone through similar situations and don't say or do anything because the system is not built to support us. The system is not built to help us. The system is built to make us not come forward. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that with what we were seeing in this case right here.
Yeah, for sure. Alberta Girl says lawyers are aiming for a mistrial to put EM through this again and again and again. To go away. Mark says, why not refrain from reaching conclusions until the trial is over? Of course, and I think that we are, and I don't think that anybody's proclaiming anybody guilty or not guilty here, but obviously I think it begs a discussion, and quite frankly, we've had notes from people that are like, why aren't you saying more about this trial? I'll be honest, I mean, just, number one, because the trial's underway, and number two, just because I think that some of the things, it's very, very, very sensitive subject matter. And I think for people, like you said, I mean, there's people that are going to have turned off this podcast or turned off this show because of what it triggers in their own memory or their own experience. And that's not to say that we steer clear of difficult subject matter, but it's just one of those things, Hey, before we thank you for your time, and we're always so grateful for your appearances on this show. The audience loves you. I have to ask about your impression on the Alberta sovereignty movement. New polling suggests, and part of it is like people are talking about, 2/3 of Albertans or 2/3 of Alberta voters, says a recent poll, oppose the separation movement. And I'm sitting there going, like, 1 in 3 supports it? Like, 2/3 oppose, 1 in 3 supports it. That's a lot. As far as I'm concerned, as a born and raised Albertan. Now, I understand that this, you have to imagine, is a negotiating tool for Danielle Smith, who is maintaining somewhat of a coy position. She says that her Canada includes Alberta, but she is making it easier for a referendum to trigger this type of thing. I assume in the ultimate goal of getting a better deal for Alberta from Ottawa. Is this landing in Ontario? Is this landing in Eastern Canada? What's your thought on the whole thing?
Oh man, the whole idea of Alberta's the separatist movement, it's so uncomfortable. I love Alberta. I've worked out in Alberta. I love the energy sector. I'm like the biggest oil loving liberal you'll meet. Like I worked for TC Energy. I work for Aramco. Like I am so in with the oil, drill baby drill. So like I love Alberta. What I think Danielle Smith has done is while trying to make it seem like, oh, I don't want this. I love being Canadian. I'm going to leave it to the people. She's actually like lit a match and like thrown it into an empty field and said, burn. And it's dangerous. It's an extremely dangerous movement because she has said she will do what the people are asking for. And like, be careful what you wish for. It is not healthy. We saw that way back when with Quebec, and we still hear the sentiment around separatism. But my hope is that with the new government, and hopefully we've got an energy minister federally who is extremely pro-energy sector, Minister Tim Hodgson. I'm hoping they can have some conversations with Premier Smith to tone this down. I heard her say yesterday that she was happy to hear that Quebec has had a bit of shift in their sentiment and their social license toward the energy sector. Alberta often feels, and in many valid ways, that they put forward a lot more than they get back from the country because of their resources. But this whole let's leave and do a referendum, it is not healthy. It is not good. We're in a time where the U.S. has said they wanted to make Canada 51st state. I've seen some social media accounts of people from Alberta who have been like, let's make it the 51st state. Like, let's take Alberta and put it into the US. This is not this is not a good dynamic. We are Canadian first. You're Albertan second, you're Canadian first. So I don't know how you feel out there and what the sentiment is like, but none of my Alberta friends and family have voiced an appeal towards this. And I hope this is a phase and not a direction we're going into.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, I don't want to like sort of like dismiss it as a phase. I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but like by definition, it is a phase. I mean, it is by definition a phase. The question is like, what does it turn into? I'm sure that whoever's organizing this will be able to, gather 177,000 signatures and trigger a referendum. And as far as I'm concerned, like hold the referendum. Great. Let's see what the number is, and then let's either like deal with the consequence if it's 50% plus one or higher, which I doubt. Not saying it's impossible, but I really, really doubt it. And if it's like, sub 30%, then let's like file it in the history books and let it be.
Never open it again.
That's kind of my position on it. Like, let's answer the question. Let's go to the people at a time of, like a lot of people on the prairies, obviously, like still, like I was out camping and off-roading with my family and friends just this May long weekend. And, the fuck Carney flags were flying, my friend, at the campgrounds. Like people already have the new flags. There's discontent. I don't, those folks are welcome to have their perspective, but you're never going to have, if there's ever a time to leave, or if there's ever a time to strike while that iron is hot, now is the time. Well, people are pissed off that Pierre Poilievre, quite frankly, blew the election, and their guy didn't get in, and the Liberals are still there, and they're going to see many familiar faces in cabinet. They're seeing them right now. And so if it doesn't happen now, it's not going to happen, I would say. And so I say get it over with.
Yeah, do it, get it over with. Let's never talk about it ever again. And you know what? You don't have to like the government. I've never disliked, I dislike a lot of things in life, but I've never disliked something enough to go make a flag and like do the fuck Carney flags and the fuck Trudeau. Like to me, it is unhinged. When I see the stickers even here in Toronto, I'm just like, really? Really? You're that angry that you feel the need to carry a flag? Like, I'm not carrying a flag that says I hate broccoli. Like, it's just like, really? Do you really hate something that much that you gotta carry?
Would it be? Yeah, you've got a plant-based technical producer here that takes that sort of thing as a personal attack.
Broccoli is a staple.
Yeah.
I love broccolini. I hate broccoli.
Broccolini is incredible.
I can support the idea that there is a dramatic difference between broccoli and broccolini. I happen to love both. But what is it about broccoli that turns you off?
I don't know. It's just kind of like, ugh. It's like broccolini's got like this like fun sizzle to it that you can barbecue and make it fun. Broccoli just tastes like you're eating like broccoli.
Yeah,
like, it's not like good Brussels sprouts that you throw in with bacon. It's just like broccoli is just like blech.
Sure. Can I, off the top of my head, my mom is going to kill me for this because I can't remember. I should remember this off by heart. But our family has a broccoli casserole that might, Sharon, change your life. Maybe I could even post the recipe in the show notes. My mom could pass it along to me. But it's basically like you got to cut up the broccoli. What do you call them? The florets, I think. Like you cut the tops off, right? And you lay them across like an 8x12 pan. And then you cover them with equal parts sour cream and mushroom soup. Just like out of the can. I know it. Just work with me here. Just work with me. And then you spread that evenly over the broccoli, and then you cover it with grated cheese and breadcrumbs. I think you might brown the breadcrumbs before, and then you bake it in the oven for like whatever it is, half an hour, 40 minutes at like 350 probably, and it will blow your mind. You will crush broccoli like you never have before.
I'm willing to have my mind changed. I'm not a big fan of cooked vegetables across the board. I like certain vegetables, but
Fair.
You know what? I will try your mother's casserole.
Yes.
Tell her to try making it with broccolini.
Do you see that we have brought this entire interview full circle? We're seeking consensus here. We're reaching out to people whose opinions and views differ and proposing maybe an alternative way out as opposed to fighting and hurling insults at each other.
See? There you go. Just don't talk to me about tuna casserole because you're going to lose me there.
Yeah, fair enough. There's better ways to eat tuna. Sharon, we love when you join us on the show. We appreciate your time and your expertise. I want to make sure that Real Talkers immediately go follow you on X at Ms. Sharan Kaur. We'll link to that in the show notes, and we look forward to the next time our paths cross. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks. Have a good one, folks.
Yeah, you got it. That's Sharan Kaur, Sovereign Advisory, longtime PR staffer, including Deputy Chief of Staff to former Federal Finance Minister Bill Morneau, and a longtime media commentator as well. You've probably seen her on CTV, iHeartRadio, AM 640, and other channels. Now all I can think about is broccoli casserole. I was just thinking, actually, I wonder if there's a way to make it vegan. But because some folks, I was with a friend this weekend. The vegan reality is it's a dietary thing, a lactose intolerance in their case. But I wonder if it might lose the kind of the magic of the broccoli casserole is that sour cream and the melted cheese. And I kind of think dairy's pretty important to that one.
Well, why you got to sex it up? I just like broccoli. I like broccoli raw with a little, ranch dip or whatever.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Everybody loves cooked food because food cooked is just so much more delicious. But, you're losing. I try to eat a lot of raw vegetables. Just dip them in dips or put, something on them and, just take, the other day I just took a big bite of a pepper, like a yellow pepper. But I was like, wow, this is so sweet. It's almost like an apple. I'm not saying everyone has to just eat raw all the time, but you lose a lot of those vitamins, minerals, and especially the enzymes. Enzymes are like the life force of food, and you pretty much just destroy it when you cook food. But man, does it ever taste good?
Is this why we're starting to see the secrets here? You've never really shared your skincare routine with us, but I'm starting to get some insights here.
My skincare routine right now is far too many steps.
We haven't even talked about your platinum blonde. I want to save that. I want to save that because I want to get into it in just a quick second. But listen, first of all, one of the beautiful things about this program, and you can skip ahead 2 minutes if you want, is that sometimes we'll veer off and we'll all learn something. And the broccoli takes in the chat right now
we were so
phenomenal.
Serious in that interview, and
we were
and
very
then at the end
serious.
we're like broccoli casserole.
But Vamp, for example, showing up with a hand grenade basically says broccoli. I've never seen this word, I don't think, applied to broccoli before, but it says broccoli is hideous,
really?
Except for when fresh from your garden and only raw. Fair enough. I'll share a little peek behind the curtain. Last night, as I don't know about you, but if I'm out camping and wheeling on May Long, it typically takes me about a week to get back into my routine of getting the laundry done and getting the tent packed back up and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, packing up a tent sucks.
But number one, what sucks worse is not packing it up and then realizing later that,
you just throw it in the trunk and then
in the moment you screwed future you.
You totally did.
But the most important thing you got to do is get into your coolers and transfer the food that remains back into your fridge or freezer. That's the most important thing. So we had one of these veggie trays from Freezing Brothers.
Of course, yeah.
And we put it out for the kids. The kids love it. But I couldn't believe when I looked at it, the cauliflower was all gone, the carrots were all gone, and there was just this huge pile of broccoli left.
What?
And so last night,
crazy.
literally, how did I know that Sharan Kaur was going to bring up broccoli? But last night, you know what I had for supper? I'm trying to shed a few lbs, you know that. I just crushed the entire section of broccoli with a little hummus.
Yeah, amazing.
And a big glass of water for once in my life.
Yeah.
And I went to bed feeling pretty good.
What we're talking right now is so subjective. It's like when you talk about music. For me, I go right to the broccoli first. Then I go to the cauliflower. Then I go to whatever else is green, like the snap peas or the celery. Then I go to the tomatoes because goddamn, fuck, they can't get on a fork. They slip out of your fingers. Grape tomatoes. Why is it so difficult?
Tomatoes.
You put them in a salad and it's you just can't get them. You got to cut them in half, and even then, I feel bad for the carrots because I always leave the carrots last. And there's always so many. Out of every veggie tray, the carrots are the most abundant, right?
Well,
and I always hit them last. I feel bad for the little carrots.
I think probably
the baby carrots.
We should get the folks from Freezing Brothers on the show. They can explain to us the dollars and cents. I have to imagine that
must be
carrots are more cost effective that way.
Yeah.
I got sucked down into an Instagram reel rabbit hole on how they make the baby carrots. From the big carrots, right?
Yeah.
They don't grow little baby carrots.
People think where do they grow the little carrots?
Pretty fascinating stuff. Tony giving a shout out to broccoli cheddar soup. Tony, I'm not sure if you saw my post the other day on Instagram story where I shared I have broccoli cheddar soup ranked as the top 3 soup of all time in the number 3 slot. I know some people thought that I was absolutely nuts. I had French onion number 1, and I had a good seafood chowder number 2 with broccoli and cheddar at number 3. There are others that are bringing in their takes on broccoli, which is obviously the most important thing that we're going to talk about today.
Oh, yeah.
Mark suggesting that I should add a rice layer to the broccoli casserole. I think that's a phenomenal idea, as a matter of fact, Mark, and I'm open to these ideas evolving. Don says, don't cook the crap out of your veggies. Like Johnny says, just enough heat to make them edible and crunchy. What about grilled broccolini with a steak?
Oh, yeah. And asparagus, too. Sometimes I'll go to someone, have dinner with someone at their place, and I'm like, what did you do? well, I boiled it and then I put it in a frying pan with garlic and butter. Why so many stages? Like asparagus cooks in like a minute and a half if you do it properly. And especially if you just throw it on the grill, like 30 seconds, it's done. Like these are a little salt and pepper, butter, whatever you want to do. But like vegetables, man, like there's nothing better. And, I haven't done it in a while, but going in a garden when things are fresh and just picking off a tomato or picking off picking a carrot and just washing it off and eat like
corn,
just the way it is. But I understand that like, these tastes are refined over time. Like I can remember a time when I hated spinach and I hated asparagus and I hated all these things. And then as you get older,
you turn 7. Yeah. What about this from Idris, who says dry roasted broccoli with garlic and sesame is amazing. Says I turned many broccoli haters with that simple dish. Idris, invite us over for dinner. We would love to experience it. James says he's actually okay with broccoli. I love this debate that's unfolding right now. Says I'm okay with broccoli unless it's overcooked. Says I grew up in a household of overcooked veg, and I was a teenager before I discovered that vegetables didn't have to suck. That from James.
Right? Because like you're talking about the veggie tray. The veggie tray is great, but you could also just dump that tray on a baking pan with salt and pepper and olive oil and put it in the oven. It's delicious as well, but you're losing like 75% of all the good stuff in there, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying don't cook your food. I'm not like some raw vegan, like I cook my food too because it's awesome. It's crazy how we got to that point where like it used to be you just ate things, you just ate them as they grew. You washed them off and you just took a bite. Now it's all about like, what can we add to it? I love your broccoli casserole, but it seems like a lot of sexing up broccoli to just have broccoli.
Well, it's just like the broccoli, and I mean no offense to the proud broccoli farmers of Canada, but the broccoli in the case of this
We're
casserole,
going to get an email.
The broccoli is basically a delivery device for the cheese and for the panko top, the panko breaded crust top.
Have you air fried broccoli?
No,
with like panko on it, and oh my!
Because Santa brought us an air
It's
fryer.
a whole new world, the air fryer world. It's crazy.
Vamp is actually making veggie spring rolls from scratch after this. Says their roommate loves them. Chad F, shout out to Chad, says a sheet pan-baked broccoli with a bit of salt and pepper is an amazing side. And then I've got a lot of people bitching about, and bitching, by the way, that's not a dismissive term. Bitching can be, I'm with you, bitching about the weather right now because they're looking forward to getting their gardens in and they haven't been able to do it.
Well, I would bitch about the weather too, but I like with wildfires, I think this is great. I think we're getting a lot of rain right before summer. I'd rather have this than dry heat right now, and especially what's going on, across Canada. Like it's starting up, and this is a good. Let's get that base layer of moisture out there. But what else was I going to say? Oh, I was going to ask you a question. So like when you go get sushi, and they have like the.
I'm glad you didn't ask me about Israel or the budget or.
We so can get back to the serious stuff, but the tempura.
Yes.
What veggie do you go for first in that batch?
To be honest, I think.
I know you go for the shrimp, but after that,
I'm just trying to decide if I should say this or not because I realize I'm about to take a big steaming pile on something and probably start a fight. But I actually think and sushi is one of my favorite foods.
Yeah.
Like it's like if you ask me, like my death row meal is either going to be sushi,
delicious,
Indian, or prime rib, or maybe all three. Actually, if they're going to give me the electric chair, I'm going to have all three. What am I worried about?
I think you get whatever you want. Have you seen like last meal?
Yes.
Yeah,
throw
whatever you want.
Throw some DQ signature stack burgers in there on top of it. Give me a blizzard. Whatever. I mean, if I'm going down, I'm going down.
A dilly bar shooter for the road.
But not for the road, John. You mean the road up to the Golden Gates?
All right, I'm ready.
Yeah, to the pearly gates. Yes, but I will say this. I think that the tempura menu items are the most overrated menu items on a sushi menu.
Okay, but
I think that tempura prawns are the most passable, but if they're not done properly, they're horrible. And then I would say of the veggies, I actually like the yam the most.
Yeah,
I think that the tempura
good,
yam.
Yeah. But for me, I go for the broccoli first. I love the I love dipping it in that sauce they give you.
Yeah.
And then I would say the yam is the next one.
White Dream, I tried to get you there. Sweet potato is the best tempura. And now everybody is sharing their death row meals. So this is great, guys. if all of us are going down together, it's going to be me and James first in line for the prime rib because why wouldn't you? How's this for a segue? John, speaking of phenomenal meals, why don't we head out to Jasper for a second? Courtesy of our friends at Tourism Jasper, every single week we remind you of the incredible things that are happening at Jasper National Park. And this week, I want to make sure that Pyramid Lake Lodge is on your radar. Your lakeside mountain getaway is calling. Can you hear it? Can you hear the call of the loon? Can you imagine Pyramid Mountain right there looming over your beautiful accommodations as you visit this iconic Jasper location? As we're talking to you, of course, you can check it out for yourself. And if you're watching on YouTube or any of our social media platforms, check this out. Our family loves this place. A chalet-style alpine lodge with breathtaking Rocky Mountain views. Like, I'm talking, the mountains are looming over you, including that iconic peak, that Pyramid Mountain. That is obviously, that just screams Jasper.
I know
what
you like. This is what you like.
You know what I mean? Buddy, the hot tub out there. Right?
I had to get a picture.
Why do you have to just remind people that all I do when I get out
love,
there is sit in
you
the hot
love
tubs?
the hot tub.
Well, there's
at the
nothing like
pyramid.
it. When the hot tub, I'm feeling like, when the cold beer hits your lips. When the hot tub water hits you. But in all seriousness, this all season long is just an incredible destination. You get front row seats to nature's magnificence. So in the summer, basically starting right now all the way through until September at the least, you can rent kayaks, canoes, paddle boats. You can even rent mountain bikes on site at the lodge, which is amazing if you either don't have one or don't have the vehicle to bring yours out from the big city. You can explore Jasper's mountain landscape as you're keeping an eye out for wildlife, especially the little ones, the newborns this time of year, from the lake, or the hiking trails that surround. There's so many different options. There's adventure right at your doorstep and no shortage of things to do at Pyramid Lake in Jasper. And the dining out there as well. If you want to just stay on site, they've got Alto Restaurant where Alpine meets Shoreline. This is an upgrade. This is this restaurant just opening a very short time ago. So for many of you that may have, you've got family memories of being out at Pyramid Lake Lodge, you've got to get back out there to check out what they've done at Alto. Whether it's a charcuterie platter or an entree that'll absolutely wow you. You want to tour their wine selection, check out the craft beers. It is absolutely wonderful. This is one of the crown jewels of Jasper's culinary scene, to say the very least. And if your family's feeling like you'd maybe like to get off the property, you don't have to, but there's enough to do there at Pyramid Lake Lodge. But the Jasper Skytram is wide open right now. Incredible views from high above. You basically save yourself the scramble up the mountain, and you can just enjoy that Skytram. It's a really unique alpine experience. It's great for families. It's great for young kids. It's great for people with limited mobility. Your dad or your sister or whoever blew their knee out or is waiting for that hip surgery. It's great for dogs, too. It's dog-friendly, the Skytram is. You can check it all out online by checking out Jasper.travel. When I think, Johnny, I wanted to share this photo. This is one of my favorite ODR memories of all time on the outdoor rink. This was an early spring visit that our family made to Pyramid Lake Lodge, but Wyatt and I slapping the biscuit around on that outdoor rink. And of course, if you're starting to plan your family's visit into next fall or even into the winter, like I said, and you can see Pyramid there behind us, that beautiful mountain. It's got kind of like a copper hue to it, but we snapped this photo on a horse-drawn sleigh ride around the lake as well. So why not go for a paddle canoe there with your family in the summer and then recreate the same route on a horse-drawn sleigh in the winter? It's all part of the magic at Pyramid Lake Lodge. You can learn more. Start planning your Jasper getaway by visiting Jasper.travel. And of course, we'd love to hear from it. A couple of weeks ago, sharing the Fletcher family's vacation as Mama Lisa was out there completing the Canadian Rockies Jasper Half Marathon. A big shout out to them. We'd love to show off your Jasper memories. You can send us an email to talk@ryanjespersen.com or tag us in your posts. Make sure you hashtag MyJasper and Real Talk RJ. MyJasper Memories, proudly presented on Real Talk Weekly by our wonderful friends at Tourism Jasper. The conversation continuing on yam tempura.
Oh, gosh.
in the live chat. So I have to note, this is, we don't do, in the business, we get a little bit nerdy, friends. We talk about time stamping episodes, and you want to go, well, you want to create content. You want to have conversations that are just as engaging now, today, as they will be 6 months from now. But sometimes we got to talk about what's happening in the moment. And today is the day when the Edmonton Oilers will continue their march toward, we hope, the franchise's 6th Stanley Cup. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's first.
Thought you were going into like a Braveheart speech here.
Well, I'm thinking it.
We will emerge
I think it'll be
victorious.
maybe more like an Al Pacino Inches speech from Any Given Sunday.
Yeah.
But all of this to say that on the day that the puck will drop on Game 1 of the Western Conference Final against the Dallas Stars, Johnny Infamous, the most beloved DJ in Oilers Nation, the man who holds court and manages the vibe at the Moss Pit, has gone platinum blonde with this round's version of your coif. I know that a lot of debate went into this. There were some hockey superstitions at play. Take us into where your head is at, and not just the color.
Well, yesterday, it was golden, and I was like, what do I do here, Ryan? And you said, you're like, you got to keep going.
Well,
They're
because
winning.
you were considering going back to Au Naturel.
Yeah, I was just considering getting a cut and just keeping it going. But now I went back and, shout out to Michelle Banky at Clarity Salon, because look at it. It's a lot natural now. It's got like these natural tones in it. But it is kind of, I'm almost like a silver fox. If I go one more round with these guys, Ryan, and I have to do this again, I'm going to have white hair.
Well, I think if
because every time you do it, it gets a little.
If they go to the Stanley Cup final, then if knock on wood,
June.
if, then I think maybe you then you go like copper and blue,
maybe I go pink for Pink Pony Club.
Oh, no, I think you would look unbelievable with pink.
But I'm super stoked for tonight, and I think the whole city, you feel that, even though it's a rainy day today, you feel that whole vibe. All the flags are out on the cars, and people are going to be downtown and inside these, like when they're away games. I love that people still come downtown and go to local eateries and local pubs and service the places. Like, I get that tonight, a lot of people will bid to stay home and watch it inside. It's a rainy night, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think with these earlier games, and you said this yesterday, like this Sunday one especially, I think it's going to be a pretty nice weekend. Like Friday is supposed to be pretty good, like 20 degrees and partly cloudy. But I think Sunday especially, like people will be out and about. Like people are going to be downtown at like 11 a.m.
Yeah, a 1 p.m. puck drop is not always ideal. No. But I think it adds kind of a fun, especially on a Sunday. Right? It adds kind of like a fun vibe to it. You're probably going to see more, although I would say you'd see more kids, but like I don't know who's taking their kids to like $1,000 hockey game. Some people are lucky enough.
But
there's always that one family of 5 that has like their own box, and you're like, what is their reality?
But there's a lot going on downtown as well. Like you see families walking around and stuff. But you're right. Like it's also nice. Like these early starts, these 6 p.m. except for that Saturday matinee. 6 p.m. starts the whole time. Like we're all gonna get to bed by 10 o'clock, Ryan. I'm gonna be home after the Moss Pit by 10:15 and in bed by 10:30.
I'll believe that when I see it.
Makes me happy. Also, like we have a thread with like the Oilers production, the staff who puts on the events outside of Rogers, and all the DJs and all the hosts and everything, and they're all in there. Like all the DJs are scared to death. They're like, oh my God, I haven't gotten up before 11 in like years, and I'm in there like, this is awesome. I have a real job on Monday, and I'm gonna be home by 5 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a do you feel confident enough to put anything on the record with regards to your position on how this is going to play out?
We talked about this yesterday.
I did. I promised I wouldn't drag you into the public sphere with your prediction.
And I know you
think
I'm crazy. I know you think I'm insane.
No, I don't.
I'm going to put it out here now, and I should have bet yesterday because we were on our betting sites. We were looking at things, but I'm going to go Oilers 5-1. I think like.
What do you mean? Oilers are going to win in 5?
Sorry, yeah. Oilers 4-1.
Yeah, they're going to win in 5 games.
They're going to win in 5 games. Sorry, not 5-1. I think they're going to win in 5 games, and I just feel like, I don't know. This is a different team. They're gelling better, especially if Ekholm comes back. I think 5 games is all it's going to go to. But a lot of people say, I know yesterday I said Dallas is a wagon, but I just feel like, I don't know. There's something different about this team this year. The way they, everyone thought LA was just going to run on over them. The way they dismantled Vegas very quickly. And I think that Dallas had a hard series against the Jets. The Jets are a really good team, and it went it didn't go 7 games, but it went 6. And I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like off the hop, I'm going to go 5 games. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go 6. I think Oilers in 6. I think I'm going to go with the recreation of last year's Western Conference Final. Exactly. 6 games, maybe Dallas. I don't know.
Can I have the same order?
May I please
that I got
have the
last
same
time
order?
when I was
will
here?
have what he's having. And so we'll see. And I don't know if I don't know if this waters down. I don't know if those members of our audience that wager, friends, don't ever bet what you can't afford to lose. That's my advice to you. If it increases the fun that you have while watching sports, then fill your boots. I feel like a bit of a coward in that I've hedged my bets on the Oilers' fortunes or the Oilers' outcome this series, so I've bet a little bit on a sweep just because the odds are fantastic.
They're crazy.
I don't think they're going to sweep Dallas. Dallas is an unbelievable club, but I obviously had to throw a few on there. And then I put a little bit on 5, and then I put my big bet on 6. And I'm not even betting on 7. I don't want to see it go 7, so we'll see. I think it's going to be Oilers in 6.
Yeah. The other thing is, this is a busy time of year for a lot of people. Like, as spring and summer ramps up, especially people who are event planning like me, I would love if this one is a little short so I could get some other things out of the way. We've got a lot of things coming up. And then even when the finals come, I mean, we're looking at our calendars. It's just,
it's going to be
Real
amazing.
Talk Golf Classic is coming up.
Yeah.
And we've got friends coming to the city potentially. So it's just, it's a lot. And we always get stressed ahead of it. But then it's just like last year when it was over, we're like, man, that was incredible. That was a crazy wild ride.
Yeah. Tony says, I hope the Oilers do well, but I kind of have a feeling Dallas will take this series to the full 7 games. It is absolutely possible, Tony, 100%. I mean, this could be, you've got 4 good teams left. I know like Florida's looking really strong. Carolina's still a really good hockey club, but Florida, big game 1 there in the Eastern Conference
5-2
final.
last night. Yeah.
And then of course Dallas or Edmonton. I mean, you've got 4 teams that could, I don't want to say easily, nothing's easy, but you got 4 teams that could easily be Stanley Cup champions. Yeah. This is kind of the way you hope it works out.
Yeah.
Best of the best.
I didn't want it, but I'm starting to think more and more after watching the last night's game with Florida and Carolina. I was like, oh God, it's going to be Oilers, Florida.
I love that.
Again.
I want that.
And yes, that's what you have to beat the best. It would seem like cheating if, Carolina got in and then we won the cup. Like we want to get past the team that we couldn't do it.
Can you imagine if
right?
Taylor Hall came back with Carolina and beat Ed? I'm not even going to say it out loud.
Oh my God.
I'm not even going to say it out loud. Hey, Johnny, you mentioned the Real Talk Golf Classic.
Yeah.
Why don't we remind everybody that our friends at the Ranch Golf and Country Club are preparing to host all of us on the 19th of June. That's a Thursday, a 2 p.m. shotgun start. I know that some of you are going to go into work early on the Thursday and bang out a day. Good for you, because you're obviously going to take the Friday off. That's the whole idea. We are gifting you a long weekend right around summer solstice. You're welcome, everybody, and all in support of the Real Talk Julie Rohr Scholarship. You can go to the RyanJespersen.com/events page, or, just check out our golf tournament directly. It's all on our website to register. We registered 5 foursomes yesterday after we mentioned it on the show, which I think means that there's 4 foursomes left. I'm not sure. I'm not on top of it. We have a team that does that, but it is selling out. It's going to sell out in the next few days, and I want to make sure that you're there at the Ranch Golf and Country Club with us on Thursday, the 19th of June, in support of the Real Talk Julie Rohr Scholarship. Why do we choose the Ranch? Because, number one, it's the best public course in the province of Alberta. There's no doubt about that. This is my proclamation. The tee boxes look incredible. The fairways are mint, and the greens are already in mid-season condition. Murray and his team out there are doing a phenomenal job. But also, they're experts in pulling off these tournaments. Nobody does more tournaments, literally nobody, than the Ranch in our home province. If you're in charge of organizing your company's golf tournament, maybe it's a fundraiser for something you care deeply about, I personally recommend you talk to Murray and the team at the Ranch Golf and Country Club. They'll steer you straight. You'll make all the right decisions and raise all that money you're hoping to raise at your golf tournament. Athabasca University, Canada's open university with hundreds and hundreds of different programs and courses, online degrees designed so you can complete your education whenever and wherever it works for you. Your only commute is to your device. So if you're listening to this from way out in the sticks, or maybe it's just not reasonable, it's not possible with all of your other family commitments, maybe it's work commitments, you got a full-time job, you can't be commuting to a brick and mortar university, AU could be a perfect fit for you as you join over 50,000 program and course alumni from, get this, over 100 countries. You can select your path today and check out the AU Advantage by visiting their website. That's athabascau.ca. And I know we talk a lot about Friesen Brothers, and I probably get a little excited when I talk about Friesen Brothers. Why? Because this is where my family got our groceries long before we were partnering with them in a business sense. We believe in what they offer, and that includes what their real butchers are making available to discerning customers across the province of Alberta. 16 different locations, many of them featuring garden centers that are now open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. You know that more than half of the plants that you're going to find in a Friesen Brothers garden center are grown right here in Alberta. They are custom. They are perfectly acclimatized for the type of spring, summer, and fall that you're going to see in Alberta. Even the peat moss is from Alberta. Do your garden a favor. We talk a lot about this harvest. I mean, we've never talked about veggies on a show as much as we have today. If you're a gardener, you got that green thumb, you know the value of great soil. You can check out a Friesen Brothers Garden Center today. Learn more by checking out their website. That's friesen.com. Still have people sharing about their death row meals.
What a show today.
I love this.
The federal budget, Israel, Hamas,
Hockey
sexual
Canada trial.
assault trial, and then hockey and broccoli.
Well, we've tried to make a commitment. We have
Balance.
made a commitment that we want to be able to talk about serious and consequential stuff in a way that real people talk about it, right? Like, kind of like just the facts and then chew on it and dissect it among an audience.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love, and I know I profess my love for our audience all the time, and the emails that we get to talk at RyanJespersen.com, I'm sure that we'll get some after what Sharon had to say. But folks that come at issues from many, many different perspectives, right? Folks on the left and folks on the right and folks in the middle and folks that have no appetite for any of those labels anyway. But at the end of the day, it's real life, and we talk about, or we endeavor to talk about, stuff that really matters to people, that's consequential to people, and hope that we learn something along the way. I loved Sharon's take today. I already know that one of the clips, one of the highlights we're going to pull, and you can follow us on all social media platforms at Real Talk RJ. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We sure appreciate that. To the 33,000 of you that do, Johnny's highlights and the shorts he put together are great. But I loved her oil-loving liberal line. She says, no, there's no liberal in Canada that loves oil and gas more than me. She says, drill, baby, drill. Yeah. I did not see drill, baby, drill coming as a pull quote from today's episode.
Not at
but
all.
It just goes to show, I think it's why we enjoy guests like Sharon and others who come on here, because there's nuance, right? It's not just always teams and party lines. It's people that can see issues for what they are, think outside. I hate saying think outside the box. That's thinking within the box, saying think outside the box. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
People that have the ability to develop opinions based on what they think is best practice.
And you don't stray away from the tough stuff, too. Like that trial, for instance, the Hockey Canada sexual assault. It's really hard to talk about because it's like, and my outright opinion on it is that, like, this was not a good situation for anyone. And I don't think this trial is going to end in any good way. I don't think EM is going to have any kind of, I don't think she's going to feel good after this trial. I don't think any of those men, and I'll call them men because they are men. They were men at the time. And I hate how people keep calling them boys because these are men. And I don't think, I'll just say right now, I don't think they're going to learn their lesson. And because of that, I don't think others are going to learn a lesson.
But what do you mean? Hang on. What do you mean you don't think they're going to learn their lesson? The things that we're reading here already, a video with 5 or 6 guys around you is not consent. Okay, that's intimidation. And so for them to have put that as proof that this woman gave consent, their thinking is so backwards. And if that's the thinking of young men today, and some of them in sports, I'm not painting them all with that brush. There are tons of great athletes, young athletes who are accomplished young men who know right from wrong. But if that's their thinking of what consent is, and just as you're hearing this story, like I don't have kids, but would anyone want their daughter in this situation? Even if she was, or their son,
at the start of it being like, I want to hang out with a few of you, whatever. Like the things that are coming to light in these texts and what went on that night, nothing loving or fun or this was not a fun situation for her. This was not, no matter how you try to paint this like someone wanted this, this was bad all around. And I'm glad that it came to light. I'm glad that they're embarrassed and they feel bad, but I don't know that this trial is going to, now that you said, like, a judge goes by the law. Yeah. Whereas a jury goes by how they feel about what they're hearing. A judge is just, I don't think this is going to end up good for anyone.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and you're seeing some support in the chat I want to recognize as well. LJ just says amazing insights. James says you're spot on. Says these guys will see themselves as victims. They won't learn from this. We can't speak to their personal character and their hearts and whether or not they're going to learn from this. Obviously, I think it's probably been devastating for everybody. I'm not saying that everybody is equal in this. I'm saying that EM is right at the top of the list by a mile on who has been impacted by this. Obviously, we talked a bit about this with Sharon, and it almost feels a bit. Maybe this is an insensitive word to use. I hope not, but it feels a bit voyeuristic, like to even be following the trial because, like, you're reading. Everyone's privy to the text messages, and you're reading these text messages. And there's the one of the players in this group chat, which is like damage control, right? First things first. Michael McLeod, the former first-round pick of the New Jersey Devils, who's brother of former Oiler Ryan McLeod. Who's in there saying, like, hey, did you go to the police? And she goes, yeah, my mom's pissed. And he goes, hey, but, like, what's up? How do we fit? Kind of, you need to tell the truth. Kind of, he's trying to do damage control there. And then there's the damage control happening in the team group chat where he's saying, hey, we all need to get our stories together. Don't say anything to investigators. We got to make sure that our testimony all lines up. Which obviously, when those texts are read before a court, come across as quite incriminating. You can also understand the position they're in of going, oh shit, like, this is going in the direction they didn't think it was going to go. But I think the most heartbreaking texts are the ones from her to her girlfriend the morning after, where she's like talking to a trusted friend, and it's heartbreaking to read these messages. And I just think, like, at the end of the day, you're right. Nobody obviously wins here. There's no winning here. No. These careers, these hockey careers, that's not the number one issue, but let's be clear. None of these guys are going to play in the National Hockey League again. So they're going to feel like, their decisions that night, the decisions that they made of their own volition, have cost them, in some circumstances, tens of millions of dollars. For her entire life has changed, no matter which way you slice it, no matter which way the court rules here, no matter which way, her life has been impacted horrifically. And I see some people making comments about the settlement from Hockey Canada and this, that, and the other. You think that you think she'd take the money if she had a chance to redo the night or to have the night end up differently? You think she'd still go through it and have her name dragged, or at least have her character dragged and testifying? Like someone said earlier today, I think it was Kathy, someone in our chat, talking about, can you imagine the impact of testifying for 8 days and being cross-examined by pit bull lawyers? I mean,
it's wild. It's absolutely insane.
I do think, and again, let's be clear, Johnny and I are civilians. Neither of us are lawyers or legal experts. But I do think, my gut tells me that the move to a judge-alone trial has to benefit the defendants as opposed to the plaintiff, right? You have to imagine, like, I just think the way that a jury is compiled, it's a jury of your peers. It's average people that are going to feel a certain way based on what their gut tells them, based on what their heart tells them, based on the evidence they're hearing, yes. But they're 12 human beings that can experience things. Maybe, who knows how the jury screening went, but maybe one of them is an assault survivor themselves. Maybe one of them is thinking about their own daughters or their own sons, and that'll impact. Whereas a judge is going to approach a trial very differently.
That's where I say this outcome's not going to be what anybody wants. But, like, also you're talking about like people who've been through sexual assault or people who have kids and can put the, like, outside of all that, because I don't. I still see this situation. It's just like, how did these boys, this gang of boys, I'll say gang, because there's like 6, 7, there's 8, there's a bunch of them out that night. Yeah. They knew this situation was questionable. Nobody tries to get a video of consent. Like, you knew from the get-go. It's almost like, and I don't want to use the word because it seems like I'm paying, like, it's premeditating, like, it's looking into the future and being like, we might get in trouble for this. Let's cover our bases. If you're doing that when it involves sex, you get the fuck out of that room. And tell somebody that it's going on. Because if you have to think about that and cover bases and create a file of proof for afterwards, you're not in a situation that is fun for
I want
someone.
to just show some love to M. Aitken, who's sharing in our chat right now, and I always just have so much respect for this. She says, I carried my assault my entire life. She says, I'm 70. I never told my parents that it happened, and I told my husband after 10 years of marriage. She goes on to say, EM will carry this with her throughout her life. Absolutely. And I also think, like you said, John, it's an opportunity. And again, it's not just men. It's not limited to men. But statistically speaking, this is more geared toward men for obvious reasons. Anybody that would argue that, I'd roll my eyes. Give me a break. But it should give everybody pause to think. And I recognize that not everybody's in a circumstance where you're like in a group chat where women are following you around and like that whole culture. And let's recognize that these are the elite. At that time in 2018, the elite junior hockey players in the most elite hockey nation. So these are like the best 23 players under the age of 20 in the country for the most part. And these are all NHL first round, most of them first round draft picks, guys that we go into, like these are guys that for their entire lives. And there's not, it's wonderful for like there's families out there. Your kids are 7 or 8, 9, 10, and they're working hard and they have dreams of playing hockey or basketball or figure skating or swimming or whatever. That's great. That's wonderful. But we all know how it works with like the elite athletes, and you can see them. Like I was joking with my buddy Chivers this weekend. There's a kid in their orbit at 4 years old. Everybody knew like this kid has what it takes, right? Yeah. Going bar down, 4 years old on skates, like unbelievable, right? And we lift up these young people and we put them on these pedestals. And I'm not saying they don't work hard on the athletic side, but the social what they become accustomed to socially for a lot of them is people that adore them, people telling them how wonderful they are, maybe getting a pass on school assignments or like not having to do the work here, or maybe it's a little bit easier to get the attention of the girl you always liked, or you know what I'm saying? And I think that there's that kind of there's the fame and there's that sense of entitlement that can come with it,
and that's fine. Like, well, you get a bit of fame, you get a bit of money, all these things, and you're young. Who am I to say don't go out drinking, don't be promiscuous? Like, live your life, have some experiences. But what I'm saying is, like, I'll just say they treated her like a thing, not a person. And how do we teach people, young men, from this point on, that that's wrong if these guys don't get punished? And I'm not saying, like, do you think EM wants all of them to go to jail for life? Probably not. But I think whatever outcome happens is, well, she might. But whatever outcome happens is not going to be enough, and there's still going to be people on either side arguing, and I don't think any young men are going to learn from it. So for me, this is just a bust. It's a blow up. EM's going to be hurt. The guys aren't going to learn a lesson, and nobody else out there is going to learn a lesson from this. So as soon as I heard the judge was taking over, I was like, we're fucked now.
M. Aitken, I want to reference, I shared about 5 minutes ago what she was talking about, her assault, and she didn't talk to her parents about it. It took 10 years to tell her husband. She's continuing. I just respect, I've got a lot of love for you, and I appreciate you sharing in our chat. And she's seeing a lot of support from this Real Talk community. But she says it's a small part of my life, but it is always there. She says it never ruled my life because I wouldn't let it. But she says, like, she taught her kids, right, to basically to, she says, I taught my son and my daughter to respect others and to respect their own bodies, and says my son is the most caring man I know, second only to my husband, super supportive and caring. Meantime, others like Ms. KD says, I'm really happy for you, says, for that. She says, but my assault did rule my life because I've never trusted men, so I could not sustain relationships. Or maybe, she says more accurately, I could never trust myself. Ken K says, as the father of 2 young adult daughters, I find it all so heartbreaking, which I agree as well. And I think that's a fair point. Lauren says, I talk safety often with my daughter. I appreciate the comments you're making, Johnny, and Real Talkers. I appreciate you supporting the forum for these types of conversations. If something that we've said has resonated with you and you'd like to share, you know where to find us. Talk@RyanJespersen.com is our email address. You can always send an email in confidence. If it's something that you think is important for this audience to hear, but you don't want to fix your name to it, that's something that we're obviously very proud and willing to respect. As we wrap today's show, I do want to remind you one more time that the Real Talk Golf Classic is coming up now in less than a month, in like 3.5 weeks, basically. Thursday, the 19th of June. You can check out the events link at ryanjespersen.com. We'll link to it in the show notes as well. This is our 4th annual Real Talk Golf Classic, proudly presented by National Bank Financial Wealth Management. We'd love to see you there. 2 p.m. shotgun the 19th of June at the Ranch Golf and Country Club. And we'll also see you right back here in 23 hours. Thanks, everybody.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jespersen, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harmon Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjespersen.com.